Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. Today I'm doing some regular scheduled maintenance on my 2017 car trailer. I'm going to show you everything I'm doing and checking, give you a little bit of how-to along the way. Hopefully this thing's still in tip-top shape to make sure I don't have any issues when we go out to pick up the next vehicle. Thanks for coming along. Okay, so anytime I'm working on my trailers, the first thing I do after I get them jacked up is I check the wheels and make sure the wheel bearings are tight like they're supposed to be. Not over tight, but not loose. So first I give them a spin. And this one spins pretty freely. I can hear the brake rubbing inside the drum, which is good. And then I grab the top and bottom. And what we're looking for is you shouldn't be able to feel any, it should be firm, but you don't want to feel any like a little tap in it. And this one, yeah, this one I can feel a little tap. Maybe you can even hear it. So this wheel bearing, I definitely need to tighten up before I grease it. Let me check the front. And this one I can also. So both of these wheel bearings I need to tighten up. And then I'll rotate the tires, check the tire pressure, and then I'll grease them and make sure everything's good to go. Okay. On the outside end of your hub, you have a little dust cover here. It's just a piece of stamped steel that's pressed into the hub. They make a special tool to remove these. I don't have that tool. I honestly don't think you need that tool. You can get them out just as easily if you have a nice chisel, a flathead screwdriver, and a hammer. So all you really need to do is get your chisel pushed in right behind where the lip meets the hub. Give it a few taps. Remember, we're not trying to cut through this. We just want to move that dust cover out a little bit. You do 2 or 3, maybe 4 spots just to get it started. And this one is cooperating really well. There we go. Then you can get your screwdriver in there and twist. And it'll push that dust cover out for you. Just like that. Behind this dust cover, you're going to see the spindle nut. That's how you actually put more tension onto the bearings. And it's a castellated nut that's held in place with a cotter pin. So you can use pliers or a pair of side cutters, whatever you need to bend that cotter pin over and get it out. And then you can tighten that nut to tighten up your bearing play. I'm gonna go ahead and get both of this other cover knocked off, grab some rags, and then I'll pull the cotter pins and I'll get these nuts tightened down so these wheel bearings are where they should be. Okay, so I've got a rag. This particular rag is made out of an old pair of sweatpants. I'm gonna wipe as much of this grease off as I can. Oh yeah, and I can feel how loose that nut is. And then I'm gonna pull this cotter pin out. So I like to use a pair of side cutters. Bend my cotter pin back down straight. As straight as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I can push it out a little bit. Well, get straight. There we go. Good. And then I wipe my cotter pin off. And I put that right up here so I don't lose it. Like I said, this nut's only, I mean, I can turn it with my fingers, which typically you want them just a little bit tighter than that. So I'm going to go take this in, find a socket that is the right size to fit it. And then we'll get this snugged down and make sure our bearings aren't wearing out prematurely. And then we'll pop the cap back on, the dust cap, and we'll get some fresh grease pumped into this thing. So, I didn't have a socket the right size for this nut, but I did have a pair of channel locks that fit it well. So I'm going to get this threaded back on. We're setting these bearings, I mean, it doesn't require a socket. We're not trying to make them insanely tight. We just want to get the play out of them. See, that's already better, and I didn't even really have to pull on it at all. Yeah. So that's where we want that one. It doesn't need to be crazy tight. It should still spin pretty freely. And it does, but we've gotten rid of the clunking that you can feel, which is the looseness of the bearings. They had too much slack in them. So now I put my cotter pin back in. There we go. I don't want to get any dirt in here. Then I bend back out like it was. So it keeps my bearing retainer, my spindle nut nice and tight. I give my little grease zerk a wipe while I'm here. And then I can tap my dust cover back on. These are just a gentle press fit. So yeah, 99% of the time you can just tap them back in just like that. Then you take your little rubber seal out from the end. Grab your grease gun. Wipe all the schmutz off of the end of your grease gun because it was on the floor. And then you give yourself a couple pumps of nice fresh grease. Something important to remember when you're greasing a spindle like this is there's a seal on the back side. And some spindles, some hubs, depending on how they're designed internally, if you pump too much grease in, it will push the seal out of the back of the hub. So you just want to give it, especially if it's a hub that already has been greased before, you probably don't need a ton. You just want to top it off a little bit. So you give it a few pumps, then you put your little rubber cap back in it. Just like that. Make sure it's seated all the way in. You don't want that thing to fly out of there when you hit a bump or something. And now we're good to go. Rolls nice and easy. Doesn't have that clunk in it anymore from being loose. I'm going to do the same thing on the other one. So the next thing we're going to do is check the tire pressures, and then we're going to swap the tires back to front and front to back. That's how I like to do it. Maybe you like to do it differently, but that's how I do it. So your tire pressure, the maximum pressure for maximum load capacity is written on the side of the tire. This one is rated, maximum pressure is 50 PSI cold. So I turn my little gauge on. And this one is at 50.5 PSI. So let just a little bit out. 50 exactly. Perfect. Put my cap back on. Check this tire. .3. Perfect. Grab my impact here. So something I like to do on all my vehicles, all my equipment, I like to always put just a dab of anti-seize on the wheel studs. Some people say this causes your lug nuts to come loose. I disagree. If your lug nuts are torqued down properly, this should not have any negative effect at all. But it will make it easier to get the lug nuts off for you next time, if you ever sell it, for the next person, so on and so forth. So it's just a little dab of preventive maintenance. Everybody has their own preference. I prefer to do this. Other people prefer not. And then I also always start every lug nut for a few threads by hand first. If you've ever dealt with a cross-threaded lug nut, they're a pain in the butt. So this is just a good way to make sure that you're not cross-threading something by accident. It only takes you a couple extra seconds, which is a heck of a lot less time than, 45 minutes or an hour messing with a cross-threaded, frozen, can't get it apart lug nut. And anti-seize is cheap, so like I said, this is what I like to do. You do it. So we're going to do the same thing on this side that we did on the other side. Check for bearing play, adjust if needed, grease, and then tire pressure, and switch the tires forward to backward. So the other thing I like to check on my trailer, I actually check this every time I'm about to take it anywhere. I always check the lights. You want to make sure that everybody else on the road knows if you're turning, if you're stopping, if it's nighttime, they can see you. Not to mention, you know, it's easy to check the lights to make sure you don't get pulled over and get a ticket or something like that. So it's a quick, easy way to just do a check, make sure. There's only 2 circuits on my trailer. The marker lights, actually 3. Marker lights, left turn circuit, right turn circuit. The turn signals are also the same circuit that the brake lights work through. So I'm gonna put my markers and 4-way hazards on, and that'll tell me if my light bulbs are good and everything's working like they should be. My corner markers at the front are working. My left turn and marker is working. My right turn and marker is working. My tag light is working. So I know all my lights are good. This thing's ready to get back on the next trip. I'm actually going to use it tomorrow to pick up another truck. I'll probably bring you along for that as well. That is it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. The trailer is all ready for a few more trips. I've got my wheel bearings nice and tight. All my lights are working. My tires are aired up to where they should be. The only other things I check are the suspension and crawl around underneath and make sure there's no cracks in any welds or anything. I actually just did that last week and didn't have the camera handy when I did that. But next time I go underneath, I'll follow up on this video. I'll make sure you see what I do under there too. But for now, this thing is ready to go. If you like the video, go ahead and click that, smash that like button underneath. Subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.